Hello, everybody. We are moving on to lesson 3 today on box plots. What you're looking at right here is a box plot. It's called a box plot because it's made of boxes. Usually you're going to see 2 rectangles. Once in a while you'll see it with lines at the end like that. It doesn't change anything. Just be aware you will see it both ways. Sometimes it's called a box and whisker plot. Just be aware of that. It's just because of these straight lines. They say it looks like a kitty cat, right? Maybe. I don't know. But that's why they call it that. The more modern term is box plot, but I have seen it both ways recently. So it's just a way of remembering it. Box and whisker plot. I personally am not a fan of cats, and this is why. Every morning. Now, a closer look at a box plot. Every line, vertical line, stands for something. Notice how they're using the word whisker here. Just as a little reminder. I'm going to get into what all this is. I'm going to explain it, but this is just a good reference to look at, especially if you need a little help with your homework. So, with that being said, remember this? Yes, all those words that you just saw on the previous page are vocab words. The nice thing is, as far as the definitions, do you really need to know the word-by-word definition? No, you don't. You just need to know where it's located on the box plot and how to calculate it if that's even necessary. So, the words that you need to know are maximum and minimum. For the most part, pretty self-explanatory. Q1, you'll see me refer to, or quartile 1. Median, oh, that word is familiar. It pops up here. Q3 is, you guessed it, quartile 3. Technically, the median is quartile 2, but we don't really refer to it like that. And the other thing that you need to know is IQR, which is the abbreviation for interquartile range. That word range, remember, was subtract the high minus the low, but this is interquartile range, so it's not exactly the same. So it's Q3 minus Q1. So let's get started on the sheet that I provided for you. We're going to start with identifying the parts of the box plot shown below. So what you'll see here is a number line with a box plot above it. What has happened is this box plot was created from a set of data. We don't know the data yet. We are going to eventually use data to create a box plot, but for the sake of this being new, there was some data, somebody calculated it and came up with this box plot, okay? So for now, we are just going to label the parts with the new vocab words. So part A is the minimum. So that's the minimum. What do you think the maximum is? Yeah, it's E. So that's the maximum. If we're looking at a number line, logically, that makes sense. B represents the quartile 1. C represents the median. And D represents quartile 3. So I am going to label this as this is the min, Q1, the median, or Q2, Q3, and the max. Really, it's going from least to greatest. Now, I am going to add these answer these questions just based on this number line so you can see how we do it. So A represents the minimum. Whatever the set of data was, the minimum was the number 10. B represents quartile 1. Whatever this data was, it was 20. I'm just getting them from whatever number is right below it. The median is 30. Because it's right above the 30. Q3 is right above the 35. And the max is right above the 50. Number 2 says 30 students were surveyed about how many text messages they sent on a given day. The results are displayed in the box plot below. So a survey was given, somebody already took that data and compiled the box plot, and it is given to you below. So before I answer these questions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to label based on what information I just gave you on the last problem. So I just zoomed in right here just so you can see a little bit better. So the first dot is the min. This is quartile 1. The median, quartile 3. And the max. So question number 1 says 100 represents the blank of the data. Well, I'm going to go ahead and look at where my 100 is located, and that is right here, and it looks like it's right below the median. So the 100 is the median. It is the number in the middle. 140 represents the blank of the data. Well, 140 is right here. So that represents the quartile 3. It's also known as the upper quartile. Just a little FYI. So now they want us to calculate the interquartile range. Interquartile range. If I refer back to my definition that I gave you in the beginning, that is Q3 minus Q1. Well, Q3 we already figured out is 140. And Q1, well, let's take a look here. Q1 is here, and it looks like it's above the 80. So I'm going to subtract that, and when I do, I get 60. One thing that I want to bring to your attention is the interquartile range that we just calculated is basically this box here. The highest minus the lowest of that box. If we were doing actual range, like we did in the last 2 lessons, it would be the subtraction of this whole thing, the max minus the min, right? The highest minus the lowest. But interquartile is just the smaller part, Q3 minus Q1. Question number 3 says the data below shows the number of years of teaching experience each math teacher at the local high school have. Use this data to complete the 5-number summary. So they want to know the min, the max, the median, the first and third quartiles, but we do not have a box plot. They want us to figure it out ourselves. Well, we could do the min, the max, and the median right now. They already have it in order from least to greatest, so it actually would only take us a second to do that. So do you agree that my minimum is 3 and my max is 32? Now my median is the number in the middle, and if I pair off, I have 19 and 21, and if you remember, the way that you would get that is you would add those together, and that's going to give me 40. And when I divide that by 2, I'm doing a little mini mean, and that's going to give me 20. And isn't the number 20 in between 19 and 21, right? That makes sense. Okay, the question is, how do we find the first and third quartile? The best way is to use your calculator, and I am going to show you how to do that. Now, for those of you who do not have a graphing calculator, I have sent out a few messages to you about what to use. As of right now, on an iPhone or an iPad, the best thing that you can get for free is called Calculate 84. When you go to the App Store, this is what it looks like. I suggest you get it. This is what I'm going to be using in this lesson instead of a regular graphing calculator. They're so similar, it's not going to make a difference, and I'm assuming that more of you have this than an actual graphing calculator. Now, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to hit the Stat button. You can see I've already circled it for you. That button we're going to start using a lot, so get familiar with it. The next thing you're going to do is from the menu at the top, you're going to choose number 1, Edit. Once you do that, it's going to bring you to something that looks like this. If you see at the top, it says L1, L2, L3, L4, that stands for lists. As far as we're concerned, for the box plots, we only care about list 1 for now. So what you're going to do is the list that we have in question 3, we are going to start putting them in. It's very simple. You just type in the number and hit enter. So as you can see here, I typed in 3, I hit enter, and it automatically moved down to the next line. Now you can see I typed in 11 because that's the next one on my list. I hit enter, and I moved down the next line. You're going to keep doing this until you get through your entire list. What is nice is it doesn't necessarily have to be in order from least to greatest, even though our list already is. So take a second and finish filling out your list. And once you're done, it should look like this. If not, take a second and go back up and fix it. From here, what you're now going to do is you're going to hit the Stat button again. Even though we're already in Stat, you're going to hit that button again. This time though, you're going to either right arrow or touch, depending on if you have a touch screen, over to the word Calc. So you're going to move over to that second menu there, and you're then going to choose number 1, 1 var stat, which stands for 1 variable stats. Once you do that, it should bring you to a screen that looks like this. If you're on a regular graphing calculator, there might be a couple of extra things there. That's fine. All I'm going to do right now is hit enter. If you have a regular graphing calculator, you may have to hit enter 5 times, but it will get you to the same spot. When you do that, it is going to give you something that looks like this. Mine's off to the right just because I'm on an iPad. But you should see over here there's a bunch of information. One thing that it gives you that's interesting that we were doing on our own, this first thing with the X with the bar over it, that is actually the mean. Yes, the calculator will do mean for you. I didn't tell you that. Then we have all these other crazy symbols that we're not going to get into, and then we're starting here, we're seeing something that looks familiar, minimum, quartile 1. So I'm actually going to scroll down because there's more things there that I need to see. And for right now, this stuff is not important. And this is what I really need right here. Okay, now your calculator hopefully is separate from your work. So I'm going to just screenshot this little piece and then work on question number 3 that we were just working in. All right, so what's nice here is the calculator does put it in the same order that's on the box plot. Notice if I'm comparing answers that the minimum that we already calculated matches exactly what the calculator did. The maximum matches exactly what the calculator did, and so does the median. Now, as far as quartile 1, that is something that we needed, so I'm just going to fill that in. 14.5, and the third quartile is 27. Once you get used to this, it will move along quite quickly, and you can calculate all of this within a few seconds. Exercise 4. The data below shows the number of points scored in the first 9 games of last year's basketball season. Use the data to complete the 5-number summary. I'm going to do this on my calculator. I am not going to take you through the steps again. If you need to review the steps, just rewind a little bit, watch me do it again. The only difference is the number that you put in your list are going to be these numbers here. Now, the app, even if you reset the memory, 2nd+712, it will not clear out the list. So just when you go into edit and you go into the list, the clear button is going to keep exiting you out. So hit the DEL button over and over again, the delete, and it will clear out the numbers for you. Now, if you did this successfully, this is what should have showed up on your calculator. If it does not match yours, see if you can go back and find your mistake. It's probably in your list. Or you may need to rewind the video a little bit and rewatch how I put it into the calculator. Now, I'm just going to transfer the data. So my minimum value is 31, which makes sense because my list is in order from least to greatest, and that's the first one. Same thing with my max of 74. My median is 52. My first quartile is 46. And the third quartile is 71.5. Okay? Does that make sense? If not, go back and rewatch how I did question number 3. So question number 5 is homework. It's very similar. If you need to refresh how to put this on your calculator, rewind a little bit to back to question 3 and watch how I did it there. Question 6. The data below shows the number of minutes a group of cars had to wait in the drive-through line before receiving their food. Notice how a lot of these numbers are repeating. When you put it in your calculator, you're going to put the 3 in 3 times. You're not going to change it. So you're putting in a total of 16 numbers in your stat. They want you to use the data to construct a dot plot. So in order to do that, we need the same information that we have been getting from the calculator. So you're going to follow the directions. You're going to go to your stat. You're going to go to your L1. You're going to put in this list of numbers. Make sure you have 16 numbers. I would cross them off as you go along so you don't lose track, okay? And I am going to show you what I get on my calculator, but I want you to pause right now and do it on your own. So this right here is what you should have gotten on your calculator. If you did not, please go back and check. Make sure your list is correct. Make sure you went through the steps correctly. Rewind to the part of video where I explained how to do this if needed. Please make sure your numbers match so you understand moving forward what's going on and you're not confused as to how the calculator is working. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically plot above the line all of these points that have been given. Before I was just listing what they were. They have already drawn a number line for you, which is really nice. It makes it easier. Sometimes you have to draw your own, but for now we're just going to not worry about that. So every number that I have in this list, I'm going to plot a dot for now right above it. So my minimum is 3. My quartile 1 is 4. My median is 4.5. So I'm going to put that approximately between 4 and 5. My quartile 3 is 6. And my max is 10. All right? That's the first part of it. If you can get those dots done, then the hard part is basically over. Now what you're going to do, you have to think about what a box plot looks like, right? Remember there's 2 rectangles and 2 lines, right? So my middle dot is going to be this right here because that's the middle. I'm going to draw a line straight up and down. And I'm going to do that with the 2 dots on the outside of that. And I'm going to connect and make a rectangle. And then I'm going to draw the whiskers to the min and the max. And that is it. So number 7 is homework. You're creating your own, just like we did in number 6. Number 8, pizza delivery. The data below shows the number of minutes a group of customers had to wait for their pizza to be delivered on a busy Friday night. So the title of the box plot is pizza delivery, and the number line represents the number of minutes. Okay, that hashtag is actually the symbol for number. It doesn't mean hashtag of minutes. Which of the following statements are true? Select all that apply. The minimum is 25. Well, if I'm looking at my minimum here, that's my minimum, correct? So that is false. So I'm just going to cross that off. The median is 55. Well, the median's the one in the middle of the 2 rectangles, and I would say that that is true. The range is 30. Well, the range is not something you can get just from looking at the graph. It's something you have to calculate. Here's good old creepy eyes, right? Range is something that you need to know the definition for, and the easiest thing to remember is that range is the highest minus the lowest, or the max minus the min. So my max, let me just move old creepy eyes out of the way. My max here is 65. My min is 35. So I'm going to subtract those, and I get 30. So that is true. The interquartile range is another one that we need the eyeballs for. And again, it's not word for word definition, but it is a calculation. It's the smaller part here. It's basically the range in that rectangle. So what is that interquartile range? Well, it's Q3. So basically the max of that little rectangle minus Q1, which is the min of that little rectangle. In this case, my Q3 is 60 and my Q1 is, let's see, what's in between 45 and 50. Yikes, because that's, let me just find a quick little mean there. So 45 plus 50 is 95. You can do this on your calculator, of course. 95 divided by 2 is 47.5. So I'm going to double check on my calculator because I don't want to make any mistakes, especially if I am subtracting decimals. So I'm going to do my 60 minus my 47.5, and that gives me 12.5, which is not going to be true for the interquartile range. And actually, notice how it says the range and the interquartile range are both 30. That's impossible. So you could have known that only one of those was going to be true. The next one, 50% of the customers had to wait more than 60 minutes. Let me just clear that out for you there. All right, so more than 60 minutes, well, that would be greater than this. The question is, from 60 to the end, or 60 to 65, is that 50% or more of the customers? Well, technically this is broken into fourths, right? This is 4 sections. Don't you agree that this is the middle, the median, correct? We already answered that. So that's half right there. That would be half of the customers. And so right away that tells us that that is false. 75% of the customers received their pizza in 1 hour or less. Okay, I'm going to break this up in another way here, just to make this a little bit more clear. I'm going to break this up into 4 sections like that, okay? Because this right here is quartile 1, this is the first quarter, so this is 25% of the data. This is the median, as we've said several times, but I did mention earlier that it was also quartile 2, right? So this is the next 25%. Then we know this is quartile 3. That's another 25%. And this is the max. If I had to name it a quartile, it would be quartile 4. So that's another 25%. So basically each section of the box plot, no matter how big or small it is 25% of the data. So the real question is, 75% of the customers received their pizza in 1 hour or less. Okay, let's see here. Well, they love to switch up to from minutes to hours, right? But if we're talking about an hour and my number line is talking about minutes, what do you think they're talking about here? That's right, 60 minutes is 1 hour. The question is, does that 1 hour represent 75%? And because they're talking about less than, I'm going to move to the left. So as I go to my left, that's 25% of the data. There's another 25% and another 25% till I get all the way to the end. Well, 3 25s is 75%. So that is also true. So that is correct. You guessed it. Number 9 is also homework. It requires some thought. Again, it says select all that apply. Notice you have 2 box plots here, right on top of one another. They're using the same number line. So you're comparing some things. So yes, it requires some thought, but it is completely doable. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to remind you guys that you are in a really unique position where you have the weight of the Regents off of your shoulders, right? You do not have to worry about that. So it's an easy pass. All you have to do is pass our class. Also, you have 2 teachers that are available to help you one-on-one almost a little bit more often than we ever would at school, right? Mrs. Schulte has been scheduling times to meet with you guys in a video chat, and hardly anybody's going. Use it to your advantage. She's just waiting for you to call her and video her. She wants to help you guys. Take advantage. All right, see you later.